Welcome back to Mental Wellness Evolution. My name is Jeff, and thanks for being here. We're now getting into my third talk of my series, the top 10 lessons I've learned on my healing and wellness journey. Okay, we're at lesson number 3. And lesson number 3, and this is a very, very important one, is you are not your thoughts. They are something you have. They are not who you are, okay? And this is such an important distinction to make, guys. And when you learn to start separating yourself from your thought processes and getting in behind and learning to observe them, you're going to change the game, okay? Many of us, especially men, are lost in our thought processes, especially in Western society. It's a very ego-driven mind. Now, that's what the spiritual side of ourselves will call this aspect of ourselves, is our ego. Now, the ego is anything that has a I, me, my connotation to it. So my mind, my car, this is how we define ourselves in the world. These are the ideas we've created about ourselves and who we are, okay? And some people are so tied to these ideas about themselves, and people say, oh, you have a fragile ego and stuff. Well, when we have belief systems about ourselves, we get very, 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 very attached to them, and then our mind gets attached to them, and then it can create us so much emotional duress and stuff in our lives because our thoughts are directly tied to our emotions. And if we keep thinking the same thoughts, they start generating emotions inside of ourselves, and we get stuck in our thought processes too. And then avoiding, as men especially, we tend to avoid our emotional states, and we're going to talk about that one a little bit later, but it drives us into our heads, and we think all day long. We think about this, we hyperfixate on the same thoughts, and I think in psychology they estimate we think somewhere between the number of 50 or 70,000 thoughts a day, okay? But that makes you understand that you think a lot of thoughts that just kind of pass through your awareness, but it's the ones that kind of get us stuck that are the ones that are causing us the problems inside of our lives. So we talked about self-awareness yesterday, guys, and this is where when we track our patterns, we can start to recognize which thoughts are keeping us stuck, okay? Now we want to get behind our thoughts, and we have what we'll call the observer of thought, the ability to come in and get behind yourself. Now you're going to realize now there's a part of you in there that has the ability to direct your focus, where you cannot be sucked into these thought processes. You ultimately get to decide which thoughts you're focusing on, okay? I think one of the best analogies that Michael Singer came up with for this is the untethered soul, is like being inside of your head sometimes is like living with an insane roommate who just never shuts up, who constantly has to like look at everything. You can't even sit and watch a sunset without your mind going, oh, look at the sun, look at this, look at that, look at this, look at that. And we get caught up in these thoughts, and so often it causes us so much emotional duress. And another thing too that humans are really bad for, guys, is we can turn on the stress response in our body. That's our sympathetic nervous system without us even, having a threat. It's a very maladaptive thing. But what happens is you start thinking about something that drives you bananas, and immediately your body's flooded with stress hormones. Now, this is a response that was, utilized very much back in the day when we were living in the bush. Well, hey, there's a tiger around the corner, and it takes all of our energy to get away from that tiger. It's the fight or flight nervous system, okay? But the problem we as humans have is that we can engage this nervous system without anything but our thoughts alone. And it's like you could be laying in bed thinking about something your partner, your friend, or a coworker or somebody said to you, and it's like throwing your vehicle in neutral and hammering the gas pedal to the floor. You're vibrating, and I can't sleep and everything else, which makes sense because when you're in fight or flight, you don't produce melatonin. So that's why when you're very anxious, a lot of people have trouble sleeping, okay? But we gotta learn to stop identifying with these thoughts, because at the end of the day, we're not our thought processes. There's something we have. They're not who we are. So when we can learn that there's a space between who we really are in here and our thoughts, it can be an entire game changer, okay? A great analogy that I heard for kind of describing how this thought process and how we go about this works is, imagine yourself standing on a riverbank watching a rushing river, okay? The current is flowing, the current is flowing, the current is flowing, and you're just standing there and observing it. Now, that current is your thoughts, okay? Now, if any time you were to jump into that river while that current is flowing extremely fast, well, you're going to be swept away, and Lord knows where you're going to end up. at that point. And maybe some point you can swim back to the riverbank and you start, you can see that the river starts flowing. But as humans with our thoughts, what do? We jump right back in and we get swept away in the river, and we spend our entire days lost in our thought processes, missing the moments, missing things. How many think about your life? How many times have you been doing something that you really truly enjoy? And instead of sitting there and being in the moment with it, you're actually just lost in your thought processes. You can't even enjoy what's going on in your life because you're thinking about work, you're thinking about finances, you're thinking about your kids, you're thinking about whatever it is that's kind of got you stuck at that point. Okay, guys, so start to track this. It's easy once you kind of see what's happening to you to start to step outside of it, okay? Because once you can make that disconnect that I am somebody else that's deeper in here, there's another being, almost, if you will, in a sense, that's in here that has the ability to sit back and observe those thoughts. And when we realize that we're getting caught up in these thought processes, then we have a power to shift our focus. And one of the greatest tools that you can work on in your entire life, guys, is to work on your focus, okay? Work on where you pay attention to. Whatever you pay attention to is what's going to be, where your energy in your life flows. Where focus goes, energy flows, okay? So we want to work on training our focus, working ourselves back into the present moment, because ultimately, guys, the ultimate joy and peace and everything else that's in this world can only be found in the present moment. And if you're literally lost in your thought processes and the way you think and all of this nonsense that's going on inside of your head, you're gonna miss the entirety of your life, okay? So there's a few things we can do that are going to help us to kind of start getting ourselves back to the present moment, okay? And the first thing that I'm going to suggest that everybody start doing every single day is meditation, okay? And I know what happens when you say meditation to people. You immediately have, what do we have this idea? Buddhist monks or a yogi sitting on a mountaintop somewhere, Zen, and it can get to that process. But what this actually is, guys, is it a practice for us to just sit in a little bit of stillness, free of kind of the chaos that's going outside in the world that's on there, and start to practice doing this, okay? Meditation is practice for life. It is literally what we want to be able to do on a moment-to-moment basis as we go about our lives, as we want to be in the world. We want to be in the moment. You want to experience those joys. And your kids are laughing and an embrace from your partner and the beautiful music and looking at a sunset. And you miss all of that when we're lost inside of our thoughts. So meditation, guys, becomes practice for life. Think of it almost like going to the gym for your mind, okay? We go to the gym to build muscle. We sit down and we meditate to build our mind muscle. It takes reps, guys. It takes practice. So you don't have to sit down right away and say, I have to meditate for X amount of time. It's just to start small. It's to start small. And this also will give you a window into this observer and this insanity inside of yourself, because anytime I say to people like, you need to meditate, they'll be like, well, I can't meditate, my mind won't shut up. Well, whose mind? Who is in there? That's you in there, okay? The mind is an aspect of yourself, but behind you is kind of that kill switch that can get that all to just shut up and allow yourself to relax back into the moment. And meditation is the ultimate practice for this, guys. It is ultimately, of the things that I've added to my life, this might be the most life-altering thing that I have done for my entire life, was to start meditating. And it starts small, and eventually you do, guys. You start to quiet your mind, because when you're focused on yourself in the moment and you start doing breath work and you breathe into yourself, well, our focus is only capable of looking at one thing at a time. So when we're focused on ourselves and feeling ourselves inside of our bodies and just being inside of the moment, as a byproduct, your mind just shuts up. And it takes practice, guys, and it really, really takes practice, but it's something that is very, very, very worth the effort, okay? And you can say, well, meditation is hard. Absolutely, it can be off the start. And I still have days where, my mind's chaos and you just sit in there and it's like training an animal. It's training an animal and eventually it relents, but it's hard to do that. But it's also hard to just deal with the madness and the nonsense and the garbage that comes up in our thought processes throughout the day. And it just drives us insane. And we get caught in one thought. How many times have you walked in to say work in the morning and one of your coworkers pissed you off and you were dwelling on that for 4 or 5 hours, and it literally, like, you're not even paying attention to your life. Your subconscious program, the robot you is running the system at this point, because you're so lost in your thought processes, you're not even paying attention to what's happening in your life. Okay, so meditation, guys, if you want to add something to your life that's of value, that is a great practice. And what that ultimately leads to is the Buddhist practice of mindfulness. And that's where we take meditation and we bring it forth into our lives, and we start working on being in the world. We start trying to feel ourselves in the moment more, and you can practice this anywhere. The next time you're stuck in traffic and, you're getting kind of, God, and you're starting to do, and I've done this, guys, but all of a sudden there's a chance for you to practice. You're sitting in that meeting and you're like, your mind's wandering. Work on rooting yourself back. Because the present moment, guys, is where life is happening. And it sounds like so cliched. Well, all we have is the moment, but we do. Life is just an endless stream of moments lived one after another, after another, after another, stacked onto it, stacked onto it, stacked onto it, okay? And we want to spend as much time in our lives as we can, because that's where the true inner peace, that's where the true joy, where you start to notice all the beauty in the world, and you have those friendships and those heartwarming moments, and you listen to music and all of these things. You get yourself back into the moment. And music, I guess, is an excellent thing for you to practice. Like, if you can't meditate, you can't sit in silence, I understand that. Grab your favorite album ever, put it on, put your headphones on, and lay down and listen to that music and just get lost in the music. And if you see yourself start to drift off and you start to lose your thoughts, just bring yourself back to the music. Bring yourself back to the music. Guided meditations are great for this too, guys. There's tons of guided meditations that you can get into on YouTube that it gives you something to kind of focus your thought on it. But when you're focusing on the voice that you're listening to in a meditation, obviously your mind just starts to shut up, because I said we can only focus on one thing at a time, okay, guys? So this is one of the most powerful things you can start to learn about yourself and your mind, guys. Your thoughts are not who you are. They're something you have. The better you get at sitting in behind them and seeing them for what they are. Think of them like, clouds passing you by in the sky, or, when you're driving down the highway, the white lines that are passing on the road. Our thoughts start to become like that. And when you catch yourself, it's okay, guys. This takes practice. Like, you're not going to saint yourself with this process right off the hop, especially if you're not even aware this is happening to you. Then when you first start doing this, you're going to start to realize how checked out of your life you likely actually are. It's almost mind-blowing to see how much our mind actually runs our life. All that chaos and nonsense that's going on inside of us, but it's literally stealing our actual life force energy from us. When we're in the moment, when we're present, that's when you can really truly settle in. You start to feel peaceful. You start to actually feel the emotions of joy and love and gratitude. But that can only happen when we get out of our heads and we start getting back into the present moment. We start getting back into our lives. And I said, guys, it's reps in the gym. Think of it that way. The mind is a muscle, and I can train it. It just takes practice. It takes persistence. But I promise you, over time, it will relent. You will get better and better at this. You will get better and better. And it's just like doing reps in the gym. You start off with no muscle. The next thing you know, you're all jacked and ready for summer and looking good, right? Okay. So lesson number 3. You are not your thoughts, okay? Anything I, me, my is ego. That's all a thought and idea about who you are. But who you are is actually that observer, that spirit aspect that's in there deeper, that actually can sit in behind the chaos and learn to disconnect the chaos. And then that part of you helps bring you back into the moment, back out of your head, back into your life, and is going to start to add so much more peace to your life. Okay, guys, so that's lesson number 3. Okay, so thanks again for watching. If you want, you can hit subscribe. Subscribe to the channel. You can find me on Mind Yourself at Facebook, and you can find me at Remind Yourself Coach on Instagram and Mind Yourself Coach on TikTok. Okay, I'm offering little tips, tricks, and tools and things that are going to kind of help you along the way. If you're interested in some personal coaching sessions, I'm booking those as well right now. You can get at me through, all my information is on my Facebook page there, okay? So thanks again for watching, guys. We'll see you again tomorrow night for talk number 4. Have a great night.